Hello, my name is Dan Skipbound, and this is Bleacher Features, where myself and a guest discuss a sports film. Sometimes sports can be pool, it can be poker, it can be wrestling. There's very myriad just ways people describe sports, games, sports, whatever. So in this case, we're going to be talking about a wrestling movie called The Wrestler. And my guest, obviously, I can't do this by myself. I got a gentleman here by the name of Hunter Chambliss. Hunter, thank you for coming on Bleacher Features, and I'm so glad that you wanted to talk about The Wrestler with me.
Yeah, man. I haven't watched this movie in a long time until I watched it today. But it doesn't mean I don't like this movie. This movie is actually really amazing. It's just really, really rough to get through.
Yeah, well, Darren Aronofsky, he doesn't mess around with his films, and he really has a lot of symbolism, a lot of messages in there, a lot of he gets a lot of great performances from his actors, and if he's doing something, he's going all the way in, just like he did with Black Swan on,
Yeah. So fun fact, real quick before we get into the actual story. This was originally planned to be a mix of The Wrestler and Black Swan before he broke it up into two different movies. The whole first draft of this movie was going to be about Randy falling in love with a ballet dancer and how both of their careers are on the fall at the time. But instead of doing that, he broke them up into two different movies.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's so weird. I'm glad he did, because Black Swan was great by itself, and
Oh yeah,
The Wrestler was great by itself without. But yeah, so needless to say, so Darren Aronofsky is the director, and usually he does kind of a lot of existential type of things. He doesn't do these like normal straight. But this is probably as straightforward as you'll get for Darren Aronofsky. Even
yeah.
though it has a lot of great messages. But let's get into the cast and everybody here. Obviously, it's a Fox Searchlight film. Like I said, Darren Aronofsky is the director. The cast: Mickey Rourke as Randy the Ram Robinson, Marissa Tomei as Cassidy. That's what she pretty much goes by in the film. You do learn her real name, but she kind of goes
Pam,
by,
right?
yeah. And Evan Rachel Wood is Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Miller is the Ayatollah.
Ernest the Cat Miller, baby.
Yeah. Mark Margolis is Kenny. Todd Barry is Wayne. Something Stevens. Somebody Stevens. It says Wars. I got Wars down here. I know it's not.
Yeah. Was Stevens.
Was Stevens. Okay.
Plays Nick.
Damn autocorrect. I hate that. Nick Volpe. Robert Siegel is actually the writer of the film, and he's in here as a character. Judah Friedlander is Scott Brumberg. The Butcher as himself. Something the Butcher. What's his name? Greg Bello is JAPW promoter, and AJ Nadu is the medic.
Yep. And then you have a lot of signed wrestlers at the time under Ring of Honor and ZCW Combat Zone Wrestling that make appearances as actual wrestlers, including Ron the Truth Killings, Claudio Castagnoli. You've got Bobby Dempsey, just a whole, like Doc Daniels, a whole bunch of really, really talented indie wrestlers at the time.
Yeah, and I didn't put all of them in the cast because we could have been here all day if I listed all those wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
I decided not to put them in here when I did the cast. I just wanted the guys that had some on-screen kind of some lines of dialogue and some actual part of the movie. The medic actually plays a big part in the movie, believe it or not. All right, so let's get into this, Hunter. So we have a montage of clippings, magazines, and flyers, and then we hear the song "Bang Your Head" playing, and that's his ring. That's basically his ring song, I think, right?
Yeah.
Bang Your Head.
Yeah, his intro song.
Yeah. So, and then he's in a classroom Randy is in a classroom of a school in pain, not enough. And then the guy comes up with him and he gives him his pay and he doesn't give him, oh, well, we didn't make enough money. But say, here you go. This is all I can give you tonight.
That's sadly the reality of indie wrestlers when they first get started. You hear about them. Most indie wrestlers don't get paid in money. They get paid by hot dogs and hamburgers when they first start out.
Yeah. And that's pretty rough, if you ask me. All right. I mean, I was part of a little bit of a little small wrestling group for a little while. They're not very long, but I was involved with. But so then we get him afterwards. He's signing autographs for a guy after the match, and then we find out that he lives in a trailer, a rundown trailer of all places. He lives. It's like, really, this guy lives in this rundown trailer. Then go ahead. I thought you said something. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
So then he's banging on the office of the manager, Lenny, because he's locked out of his trailer. I guess he didn't pay the rent or something. And then we find out that he's on pain pills because of all the wrestling and stuff that he's doing. So that we right off the bat, we're starting to see some of the things about this character that are just kind of like really. It doesn't take long, but you really get into the mindset of where this character is right off the bat.
Yeah, and this is actually, I'm not going to say it's based on this directly, but it's loosely based on the life of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yep.
Which Mickey Rourke has stated that Jake was one of his favorite wrestlers when he was younger. And if you guys don't know the story of Jake Roberts, he was big in the old school, like 80s, 90s WWF at the time. And then tragedy hit, and he just, went into drugs, alcohol abuse, and then had this really cool redemption story with DDP and DDP Yoga, which brought him back into more of his clean self.
Yeah, no. And there was a documentary about it had 3 stories in it. And one of the stories was about Jake Roberts.
The resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts. Yeah, really good documentary.
Very good. So that's definitely a way that you could, if you wanted to watch this movie and then watch that'd be 2 very good things to watch together.
Yeah.
So since he's locked out of his trailer, he has to sleep in his vans, and then when he wakes up, the kids are all banging on the kids yelling at him, "Wake up! We want to play around. We want They jump on him. They start piling on him. So even though he's this kind of grizzled, kind of older guy that lives this kind of really rough life, he still is playing with the kids, and he's still being a good guy to these kids, because it's not their. I mean, he can't let them know that the type of life that he's living. They want to play. They're just kids,
Yeah, definitely.
So he's going to the grocery store. He begs his boss at the grocery store for more hours at work. Now this guy's a jerk too, by the way. I don't like this grocery store boss of his at all. He's a real jerk. And then we see him. This is part of some of the things that are going on in the film as the film goes on. We see him taping up his knee, his elbow. I mean, the guy is always injured all the time.
Yeah.
So Randy and opponent talking about the match. I
love this scene because I know someone who's actually an indie wrestler. So I've heard him tell me stories about this stuff. And that's how it goes on. The wrestlers are super respectful. They're really, really kind people because you're working together. It's pretty much a 2-man sport. You have to rely on the other person or someone's going to get hurt. Yeah. So to see them go after, go through spots, and kind of be like, well, I'll do this, and then you bring me in the hard way, and we'll take it home or whatever. And then after the match, they have the big celebration for a job well done. That's realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. No, you're absolutely right. I was part of that a little bit with this little wrestling thing I was involved with about 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So Randy, an opponent, talking about the match, cuts himself with the razor after ref gets knocked out. So this is a little bit of inside baseball when he cuts himself, gets all bloody, because you don't usually see that stuff. You're paying attention to something else. So while you're paying attention to something else,
the camera will cut, and then they'll do a quick little.
Yeah. So that's a little inside baseball of wrestling, how they get the blood and how they do some of the different things.
Yep.
And then he gets hit by a turnbuckle. He gets hit up the turnbuckle, and then he ends up making a comeback in the match. So then he hits the wrestling move, Ram Jam off the top. He hits his move off the top rope called the Ram Jam, but it's a headbutt. Now, you and I know a little bit about the flying headbutt because we follow wrestling.
It's got a dark past, to say the least.
The flying headbutt has a definitely a dark past because what it does is it's in a way it's comparable to CTE, which is when NFL players are tackling or they're hitting their helmet on another person or another on the ground or whatever over years and years of playing NFL football or in the NFL or football as general, you develop blind spots on your brain, like dead spots in your brain. Yeah. And we know somebody that this happened to, and it's not pretty. We're not going to get into that right now, but so that's why I wanted to kind
All I will say is the inventor of the move, Harley Race, went on record saying he wished he never brought the move into pro wrestling because of the head injuries, the neck injuries, the concussions, CTEs that the move has caused over the years.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good insight on your part. So promoter wants to do a rematch on the 20th anniversary of a big match between Ram and Ayatollah, I guess. And then, he's like, Bob's doing good at the car deal. That's like, God, I love that. Bob's a car. Ayatollah's a car deal.
Pro wrestlers have real jobs, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. So Randy goes to strip club after match. Randy stands up for Cassidy. She gets mad at him. So basically, he likes this one stripper named Cassidy, and she's being kind of, I don't know. I mean, she wants to give a dance in the VIP lines, and the guy's like, no, get out of here.
Not going to lie, though. I don't believe that anybody will be turned off by Marissa Tomei.
No, but the thing is, though, Hunter, I've actually done that to a girl at a strip club. And I kind of, when I was watching it, I kind of felt bad about what they were doing to her, because I didn't like the girl. I didn't like the girl that was coming up to me wanting to do dances and all this. I wasn't attracted to her, Yeah. So I was like, I felt bad about that. So she gives him a lap dance in the VIP lounge. Randy shows her his scars, i.e. his battle wounds.
Yeah.
So we see some of the battle wounds on Randy here, and they aren't pretty. They are not pretty. So Cassidy quotes The Passion of the Christ. Of all the movies she could quote.
That's actually a really good reference.
Yeah. I mean,
someone who took a beating over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, my God. What a great movie that is, though. I mean, just an incredible. When I was watching that movie, on a side note, people were literally bawling their eyes out in the theater, walking out, crying their eyes out, bawling when that movie was in theaters. When I saw that, I was like, wow, this really had an effect on people. And I was a huge Jim Caviezel fan at the time. So I was like, man, this guy's amazing in this. But Mel Gibson told him, if you play this role, you're going to get ostracized in Hollywood. You won't get roles for a while. And Jim Caviezel, you didn't see him for years after that. He finally got on a couple things here and there, and came back. But person of interest and so forth.
Yeah.
But it took him a while to get some roles in Hollywood after The Passion of the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So Cassidy quotes The Passion of the Christ. Randy gives her $60 for the dance. Randy buys a bunch of drugs from a guy, steroids, starts lifting weights, and has hair done as well. Also gets tanned.
Funny sidetrack story about the guy, the pro wrestler who he was buying the drugs from. That wrestler a few years later would go down in prison for, guess what? Drug trafficking.
Wow.
In real life. So.
Boy, it comes around, doesn't it?
Apparently it does.
Yeah. But you love that he's trying to stay in character, that he's getting his hair done. He's doing the steroids so he stays buff. He's getting the tan so he stays in the character as Randy the Ram. You know, but he's really struggling, but he's got to do all this stuff to stay on top and stay what he's doing, you know?
Yep.
And that was kind of, I love that part. He's like telling the hair salon, like, you burn my edges and you got to do that. I'm like, oh my God. Crazy. So gets props for match from store. Then he's like going around the store getting all these props for this match that he's going to be in. It's like, oh.
I've heard stories about that too.
Have you?
Yeah. Wrestlers, indie wrestlers especially, will go and buy their own weapons. And it's usually from like a dollar store or whatever because they're cheaply made. So when you get hit, it kind of gives way. Right. Like the trash cans or whatever, they'll break easily.
Yeah. So guy asks him if he's good with a staple gun. I'm like, what the hell? I mean,
ZCW, baby. Combat Zone Wrestling.
That guy, wow, what a match that ended up being. Randy and the guy, both of them are a bloody mess. Guy in locker room congratulates him on the match. And I'm thinking to myself, you need a freaking what he just went through was like a war. I can't believe one wrestling match, you know?
It's so sorry to sidetrack again. Combat Zone Wrestling, for those who don't know, is a hardcore deathmatch promotion here in the US where every single match is under deathmatch rules. Anything goes, falls count anywhere, weapons encouraged, and fans are, think of it as like an old school or a throwback to old school ECW. That's what ECW is.
I loved old school ECW. That was my favorite. Of all the wrestling promotions in the history of the wrestling, that's like in my top 3 of.
Oh yeah.
Like that the whole Attitude Era with Austin and The Rock and all those guys, and then that part of WCW early, like Flair and the Four Horsemen and Tully Blanchard and Lex Luger, Sting. That era of WCW was great. So those are my 3 favorite groupings of wrestling, or eras of wrestling, or factions, or whatever you want to call it. So Randy is replaying the match in his head. So we're seeing all the things that he's seeing, and what a violent match was. It's like, really? I cannot believe he just went through this.
Through glass, through tables, through
glass, staples, tables, everything. I mean, literally everything except the kitchen sink was thrown out in this match. So Randy starts to get cleaned up after match by paramedics, not just like, okay, you got to cut or whatever. Paramedics are cleaning this guy up.
Yep.
He's literally on his last leg here. That's how bad a shape he's in. And then we see him, he walks off and he vomits in the locker room after the match. Yeah, I would be vomiting too. I probably would be vomiting in the ring if I was him. But it's me. I don't have intestinal fortitude that guy got. I mean, he was amazing. He was amazing. I mean, I can't believe what he went through in that. That was so real. So ends up in the ER after the match in the hospital. The paramedics had to take him to the ER because he passed out. He did.
Well, he had a heart attack. It was the mix of the coming down from the adrenaline rush of the match and the steroids he took before the match.
Yeah. So ends up in the ER after the match in the hospital. Doctor tells him to start working on his heart. Tells him he almost died. Next time he might not be so lucky. You're saying to yourself, okay, now are you going to listen to this doctor? This is just like, this is the message that you need to stop doing this. You know,
and he's not going to, because that's the mindset of all pro wrestlers, especially those who hold on too long. They always feel like they can go one more time, one more round, and then it spirals down until nobody wants to watch you anymore.
Yeah, that's the part. So we find out while he's in the hospital what his real name is. His real name is Robin Ramzinski.
Yep.
And he's like, no, don't call me Robin, call me Randy.
Trying to stay in the character.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he stays by his real name, then pretty much all this career is over.
Yeah, absolutely. So finally gets into his trailer, also gets some sleep, which he's needed some sleep. You're watching this, you're saying, get some sleep. You're saying in your head, please get some sleep. You need sleep.
Yeah.
As a viewer, you're watching the movie, you're like, this guy needs some rest.
Mm-hmm.
So then we find he's got a big patch and a scar on his chest. I mean, right down the middle.
Yeah, down the middle.
Right. They gave him heart surgery. He basically had heart surgery while he was in the hospital, and he ended up with this gigantic scar and this trying to take a shower with having just had this big giant patch on his chest and the scar. It's like, wow, what a rough shape this guy's in. I mean, really, depiction of what this guy has gone through in I don't know how many minutes of this movie was just unbelievable. I mean, Aronofsky really didn't hold back any punches, no pun intended, you know?
Yeah, and what's cool about it is he doesn't glorify this lifestyle.
No, not at all. And once again, it's kind of funny with the neighborhood kids. He gets along with the neighborhood, invites one of the kids into his house to play Nintendo with him. It's like,
it was a wrestling challenge game on the NES.
Yeah, and of course the kid's like, don't you have this other game? Don't you have this? He's got a Nintendo from 20, 30 years ago, you know?
Call of Duty 4.
Yeah, my brother played the hell out of that. We used to play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I loved it.
Yeah.
So Randy goes for a run, but he's tired. While he's running, he stops because his heart, he can't put that kind of pressure on his heart. He just got out of the hospital. So then he goes back to the strip club to visit Cassidy at the strip club. He tells her he had a heart attack. She agrees to meet him outside at his van. He tells her his story. Finally, he's breaking through to Cassidy here because we know, like, she doesn't want to be involved with the customers. There's that invisible wall between you as a dancer and your customer.
And as a customer.
And you have to kind of separate yourself from that.
It also has a good parallel to pro wrestling because a lot of people do it, but it's harder for you to find couples that are currently in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
All the traveling, you don't know where you or your girlfriend or boyfriend are going to end up. You could travel somewhere else without them. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we all know there's people that are in NXT and they're in AEW and they're in WWE and they're in AEW. So we know that sometimes it happens. That's why the relationships in wrestling aren't always the best.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells her he doesn't want to be alone. This is a very touching scene right here. Cassidy tells him to go see his family and daughter. That's what her answer is. Like, hey, go see your daughter. You have family. Go see your family. Don't be kind of attached to me.
It's a good advice until he actually takes it.
Yeah. Until he actually takes it, which we're coming up on that real quick here. So he finds a picture and he finds his daughter's picture and calls her on the phone. Stephanie, she doesn't pick up. That's her name, Stephanie. He goes to visit her at her home. She walks away from him. He tells her what happened to him. She's mad at him. Says he never made her She says he's never made her birthdays. Curses at him and walks away.
One of my favorite lines in this scene is, "Where were you when I needed you to take care of me?" Yeah,
it was rough. I mean, we all look. I have problems with my parents. when I was young, and my father's alive, but I still don't get along with him. My mother, I had problems, so I understand how a child who has problems with their parents can be, because if you don't have a good relationship with your parents, you have that resentment in your heart, you have that anger in your heart, and you just don't want to be around them. You don't want to talk to them. That's just how it goes sometimes. And so then we see him. He goes to a convention and to sell his stuff. Guys at the convention all.
This is sad.
Yeah, I love the convention because he's there. We know the problems that he's got, but then you start seeing all the other guys are like, guys got a colostomy bag. Guys are sleeping at the table. Guys got all these different problems at the convention. You're like, it really hits him when he sees all those guys with all those physical ailments and stuff,
Yeah.
So once again, Randy visits Cassidy at the club. Cassidy gives Randy advice to help him get back on his daughter's good graces. She agrees to go to a store with him to pick something out for his daughter. Tries to get work at a grocery store, but the guy only has deli counter work available. I'm like, oh man, these scenes of him working at the deli counter, Hunter, are cringeworthy. This guy should not be working at the deli counter.
I will say there is a good montage moment where he starts to get comfortable behind it, and he's making jokes. Like the breast joke is hilarious, where she's like, I want 2 breasts. And he goes, yeah, trust me, I want that too. He just
he does
he's starting to get a rhythm of normal life.
Yeah, but you know it's not going to last. You just know it's not going to last, him working at the deli counter.
And you're just waiting for the ticking time bomb to go off.
Bingo. So tries to get work at the grocery store, but the guy has the deli counter available. Randy asks Cassie to have a beer with her, but she tells Randy she has a son named Jameson. So this is where we start getting into the kind of, he wants to have a relationship with her, and she's like, I got my own life. I actually have a life with you. So Randy dances for Cassidy at the bar, which is really weird. This
is a nice scene.
Yeah. She's supposed to be dancing for him, but he dances for her. He does a kind of a goofy dance. So they sing a song together, Round and Round. Another great song. They have a lot of 80s kind of ballads in here.
And they actually have a joke about 80s versus 90s music in this scene.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because I like grunge music. I like Nirvana. And they have to bring Kurt Cobain's name into this.
Yeah, Kurt Cobain's amazing. Amazing. This is one of those guys that he's part of the 27 Club that, oh God.
Sadly, yeah.
It's just so sad because what we would have gotten from him.
Man.
So Randy kisses Cassidy. She kisses him back. She drinks her beer and leaves.
Which is kind of a bitchy way of saying, yeah, I'm going to head out.
Yeah. Well, because she knew she crossed the line by getting involved with one of her customers.
Yeah.
She's been saying it all along. I can't be involved with my customer.
Yeah.
And then he kissed her and she kissed him back. She was like, damn it, why did I do that? So we finally see Randy working at the deli counter. And then, of course, they put his real name on the name tag instead of his wrestling. And he didn't like it, So then we get the wrestling entrance sounds as he enters the deli. I love it.
Oh, it's so good. The long takes.
Yeah.
I love the long takes of going through the counters and through the back area, and then you just hear the crowd roar, and then you realize, oh, he's not going to wrestle. He's at a normal job, and it just cuts.
Yeah, I love how Aronofsky set that up. That was very nice. So he ends up at the deli counter. So he calls his promoter, tells them can't wrestle anymore. Randy brings his daughter a jacket with an S on it. Okay, the scene with the jacket with the S was like kind of like, we all know, no, you don't want to buy that for your daughter. We're thinking while you're watching the movie, like, no, don't get out of your. So he understands that, and he uses it as a prank joke.
Yeah, as a joke. Yeah.
So he ends up using it as a prank joke, the jacket with the S on it, and then he gives her the real present, which is a nice pea coat, which she's really happy for that coat because it's a warm coat. It's going to keep her warm. He asks her to hang out with him at the boardwalk. I guess this is a place where they used to hang out and go for walks. The boardwalk had more going on back when she was a child.
Yeah.
And now it's just like this rundown, dead kind of place, you know? He tells her she never did anything wrong. Tried to pretend she didn't exist, but can't be because she's his little girl. This is like a father who has a child who tries to say, no, I don't have a child. I don't want a child. I don't need a child. I want my career. But he realized that he couldn't do that because you just can't leave your kid. I mean, once you got it and she's alive and she's part of your blood, you just can't not be a part of her life.
Yeah.
He wasn't there as much as he would like, but he still says, you're my baby. You're my girl, you know, so we know that he cares about her. Especially that with all the illnesses and the things that's going on with him, he knows he don't have much time.
Yeah.
No, you know. So this is a scene that probably everybody and their brother has seen. Like when Mickey Rourke gets nominated for an Academy Award, this is the scene that they play. Tells her he's a broken down piece of meat. He deserves to be all alone. Says he doesn't want her to hate him. Oh my God,
it's so good.
Yeah, it was it's classic Mickey Rourke, and that's when you know that Mickey Rourke was an Oscar contending actor years ago before his career went down into the toilet. So there's parallels with Mickey Rourke in his own life here, you know, in a lot of ways. So they bow and dance together in the abandoned building at the boardwalk. Then he tacks the picture of his daughter on the wall. Cassidy, once again, dancing at the club, gives her a card. He gives Cassidy a card. Cassidy says what they had was a mistake. Randy tells her if it wasn't a mistake, he asked for a dance, but she won't give him one. So basically, he's trying to integrate here that it's not a mistake. You kissed me back. It meant something, you know. And she just can't get past that dancer customer thing in her brain, you know?
Yep. So
he gets mad at her after that. Then he goes down to see a wrestling show. Then, like you said earlier, Randy introduces himself to Ron Killings. Ron Killings is in the movie. He's a guy in WWE right now.
R-Truth. Yep.
R-Truth. So that was interesting to see him in there. I saw him in the cast, but I was like, well, okay, well, there he is. So then does drugs and has sex with a girl in the bathroom. Wow. This is like really off the cuff. I mean, I didn't see this coming at all.
Well, it's supposed to show his, like, how everything was going good, and then boom, like, just straight down. Because a lot of wrestlers and a lot of people do this. They create their own problems.
Yeah.
And everything was going good, and then you just had to keep pushing it. And now everything is starting to slump back down.
So he ends up with having sex with some random girl in the bathroom. So,
by the way, love the fact that there was a girl in the mirror who just walked in and was like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah. Then leaves her house without telling her while she's in the shower. She's in the shower. He packs up his stuff and gets the hell out of there. And tries to do it as quiet as he possibly can. So he didn't have any kind of like residual
awkward conversations.
Yeah. So he forgot to meet his daughter for dinner. Oh no!
I knew that was gonna happen, and even then I was just like, God damn it, dude! Like,
yep. So he goes to
this scene. heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. It was. So he goes to try to explain what happened. She gets really mad at him and calls him names. I'm not going to name the names because I don't use curse words on here. If I could help it, I did. I might have one time used a curse word.
Well, she pretty much calls him a mess up.
Yeah. Yep, you hit the nail on the head. So she says they can't fix their relationship. Tells him she never wants to see him again. She's done. Oh man. He was starting to build.
There was a bond there, and then
once again,
it was literally one mistake that broke that bridge.
Yeah, and
it wasn't just the fact that he missed the dinner. It was the fact that this is just yet another promise that he made to her that he broke. He wasn't there for her then. He's not there for her now.
Yep. And that's basically the message right there. So he's back at work, but he's kind of stressed. We see him. He's stressed out. He's kind of annoyed at the customers a little bit here.
Which anyone would be. This guy was a-hole.
Yeah. So the guy recognizes him. One of the guys in the store recognizes him, and he's like, "No, it's not who you think it is." He cuts his hand, gets mad, and quits the deal.
Well, he doesn't cut his hand. He pushes his hand in there to walk off.
Oh, is that what he did? Okay.
Yeah, because he was cutting it, and all of a sudden he just looks and goes.
Okay, because I thought he accidentally cut his hand. I didn't know he did. He did that on purpose.
I think he did it on purpose because then he wipes the blood all over his hand and just freaks out.
Oh yeah. Okay. So basically this is a whole thing with the customers getting frustrated. One lady keeps saying, "Take a little out, add a little, take a little out, add," and that would annoy anybody.
Yeah.
That would annoy anybody. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you don't get like macaroni salad like that. It comes prepackaged now. You buy what you buy. You
buy what size you want. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So you don't have to deal with that crap anymore in grocery stores. But so he gets on the phone and tells the promoter he still wants to wrestle the match between him and the Ayatollah, and he says it's on. I want to do it. After everything that he's been through, his mind goes back to, you know what? Hell with this crap. I'll just do the match.
It's literally a line that he says at the end of the movie, and you know this line very well. People don't give a F about him in the outside world.
Yeah.
But people love him inside the ring.
Yeah, and you snuck that in on me, man. And you knew I should have known that too. You're like, "You gonna know this? Is he gonna say the answer?" And I just, for the life of me, I knew I remembered it from somewhere, Hunter, and I just how do I remember this from? It was so recent too. How could I forget? But whatever. You got me. I'm not even gonna get into it. So tells the promoter he wants to do the Ayatollah match. So Cassidy comes to tell Randy she's sorry, and she has a line she can't cross. He tells her to come to Wilmington, Delaware. So basically she apologized, but there's still that line she can't cross, which we've been going through this entire movie. But then he says, "Hey, just want to come see me wrestle once? Come to Wilmington, Delaware." So then we go to Cassidy dancing at the club again with no paying customers. She's just dancing on the pole, and there's nobody's giving her any money. They're not looking at her. They're not doing nothing, Hunter.
Come on, dude. It's Marissa Tomei. She is gorgeous.
For her age. She's very gorgeous for her age. She walks out and drives to the show in Delaware. She drives all the way to Delaware. He says the world don't give a shit about him. She says she's here. She's here. Basically saying, yeah, the world might not give a shit about you.
But I do.
Mm-hmm. After what she just went through at the club. That's the end of the line for strippers. When you're dancing on the pole and nobody's giving you any money, no one's paying any attention, you might as well just call it quits after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the entrance music, Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. It's, the crowd is going nuts. He talks before the match and he tells the crowd what you said, that quote that you told me. he talks to him about nobody outside gives a crap about, but these people, you people, you guys all give, you guys care about me.
And he said, I won't retire unless you guys tell me to retire.
Yeah, which is a great line.
Somebody needs to tell that dude to retire, because my God, his body's been through a lot.
Yeah,
and that's what that wrestlers do. They hang on like longer than they should, and it ends up being, where they can't walk around anymore. They can't see their grandkids or their kids or do anything normal.
We saw the convention, when they were at the convention, we saw the guys. One guy had a colostomy bag. The other guy's asleep. So he speaks to the crowd and talks about living hard and playing hard and burning the candle at both ends. The only one who tells him he's done is the people in the crowd, which you just said. Match is taking a toll on Randy. We see it, the way they're filming this scene. The match is taking a toll on his heart. Randy isn't feeling good at all, which, as the match keeps progressing, we see that he's got problems. His heart is starting to give out on him. He goes for the finishing move, the ram jam off the top rope, fade to black. One of the best fade to blacks. I mean, Sopranos, people want to complain about the fade to black in the Sopranos, but I thought it was great, But this might be the best fade to black I think I've ever seen in any movie I've ever watched.
You literally don't know what happens.
Yeah. Then there's a Bruce Springsteen song over the credits, and it's The Wrestler. The name of the song is The Wrestler. So I love that they named the song after the title of the movie, and it's in the credits after the fade to black. What a great way to do that, Darren Aronofsky.
Right. Yeah.
So, Hunter, obviously you and I have just broke this film down from beginning to end, but there's two questions I like to ask my guests before we go, and that is, what is it about this? Obviously, you're a wrestling fan, and you love I'm sure, the inside baseball aspect of this film, but what is it about this film that, aside from maybe other sports films or other movies in general, that resonates with you, that you wanted to talk about this? And also the second question is, where will The Wrestler stand? Obviously, what's it been, 12, 13 years?
Yeah.
20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the line, as far as a great film, a great performance, great sports film, because this is a show about sports movies. So those are the two questions that I always ask my guests. Take it away.
So what resonates with me with this movie is how real it is. How he doesn't glorify, he glorifies wrestling from the outside, but then you realize these guys are broken on the inside. How I love the inside baseball terms. I love hearing backstage stories about, stuff that happens in the back, or, ribs that happen, or, the blade jobs or stuff like that, and how he really shows that he is a wrestling fan. And it's not just, a Rocky movie like I thought it was going to be, where like, at the end of the movie, he's the world champion or whatever. No, like, this is a real portrayal of a wrestler on his last legs. Like, yes, he's going to get that last payday because he's a big name, but what's it worth when you lose your family, when you lose your friends, when your health is on the line? And how wrestlers stay in the limelight for way too long and put that over their families, how they're on the road, 365 days a year. They can almost never see their families, and how, to some people, some wrestlers, this is all they know. They don't know family. They don't know an outside job. This is what they want to do their whole life. Now they don't want to give it up. So I love that aspect of how real it is, how raw it is, how raw it feels, of not just this Rocky story, but how real pro wrestling is on the body, on the mind, and just how it can break people after a while.
Yeah, no, I agree. This industry really breaks people. It really does. We know that.
I mean, literally, there's a school in Calgary called the Heart Dungeon, and it used to be where if Stu Hart himself would try to break wrestlers, he would try to mentally break them, he would try to physically break them, because if they couldn't handle training, they couldn't handle wrestling at the time.
No.
Now, it's gotten better over the years, yes, but you still have that mentality of hanging on for too long. Yeah. Which really needs to end.
So where do you think this film stands 10, well, obviously it's been like 12, 13 years already, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the overall aspect of the greatest sports movies and so forth?
I think this will end up being one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
When it's all said.
Because, you know, as I said before, it feels so real. It feels like you're watching somebody, and that will never age. That will never, you know, get old. That will never, you will always have wrestling promotions that treat their wrestlers like that. You'll always have, you know, broken down wrestlers who will hang on for too long. You will always have wrestling fans who will want to see what the inside is really like, or was like back then. To me, this is going to be one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
Yeah, well, I'm right with you as far as why this movie is a great movie. And when I asked you, I said, "Do you want to talk about the wrestler?" You're like, "Yeah, I want to talk about the wrestler," because I wanted to talk about it, because I did think it was one of these movies that you don't get to see this side of wrestling that often.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes you get it now. We've been getting some documentaries, you're getting some stuff like that, like the Dark Side of the Ring and some of these types of things. But this is a film that basically goes to the dark side. And you never, as a fan of wrestling since the early 1980s, I never knew a lot of these things. It took years later watching PCW and some of the inside baseball type of things that they started doing. That's when it took me to realize wrestling is not fake, real.
No.
It really puts a toll on these people's bodies, and the drugs, the steroids, the enlarged hearts that happen,
the broken bones, the conditioning that they have to do to be on the road, literally all the damn time.
Yeah. So that stuff really hit home for me for this movie, and he just portrayed all of that aspect of the film, and with Mickey Rourke, he just gave the performance of his lifetime in this role.
Yeah, it also helps that Mickey's a huge wrestling fan as well, and I've actually seen some wrestler reactions to this movie. Like, there's a famous story of the rest in peace, the great Roddy Piper, coming out of the theaters crying because he was like, that's what a lot of us had went through. He broke down and cried because he was like, I have seen friends and family and, you know, my brothers in this business who go through that.
Yeah. And as far as I'm right with you, I think the further away this movie goes, the more it's going to resonate with people. The more people are going to go back to it and realize what a great film this is. And I'm not just saying it's wrestling. It's a great overall film.
Yes.
And for him to be able to capture everything that he was able to get the performances out of Mickey Rourke, Marissa Tomei, Evan Rachel Wood, all these little walk-on roles and all this stuff, that to me was some of the best work for Darren Aronofsky. He can do all the movies about existential things and drugs and crazy weird stuff, but this will be, to me, this and Black Swan to me are the top of his filmography as far as I'm concerned. And we talked earlier today about possibly the Whale could be another one where he just finds a niche in something that just brings that particular material out on screen. And it could happen for the Whale, who knows? But The Wrestler is a movie that is amazing, and it's a great movie, and I really do believe it's going to be it's going to be a film that people are going to keep going back to time and time again as the decades go on. Because it's phenomenal. But Hunter, where can you be found? We have reached the end.
Over there at Nerd Entertainment Network, where we have the MTC Singles Division, the Nerve Division. We have Real Talk with the Real Deal with Jacob Barber, and we have more stuff coming that I will be announcing very soon. A horror trivia challenge is coming for the horror fans. I'm so excited for that. Thanks, guys.
And you can find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Also, I am a film critic in Orlando, Florida, and I write for a website called disappointmentmedia.com. And also my personal blog, From the Fourth Row, at wordpress.com. Also, I do a couple of YouTube shows. One's called The Top 5 Weekly, where myself and some guests talk about a topic based on what movies are in theaters that week. And obviously, you're watching Bleacher Features. This is a summer series, and it's myself and a guest. We talk about sports movies. So if you like any of these, you would like to come on and talk about anything, a sports movie or whatever else, just hit me up on Messenger, and I'll get back to you. So for Hunter and myself, good night, everybody.